Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my channel if you're new. I hope you're having an amazing day wherever you are, and I hope you're staying safe. In today's video, we will be talking about the Form I-944, also known as the Declaration of Self-Sufficiency. So this form was introduced in February of 2020, only about a year ago. It became a requirement to go together with anyone who is submitting adjustment of status application. This form is used to determine whether or not an intending immigrant will run the risk of becoming a public charge. I just want to let you guys know that currently under the Biden administration, they are undergoing a review of the public charge rules, etc. So as of now, the form is still a requirement for your adjustment of status application. However, we'll see how it goes in the future, and if anything changes, I will obviously update you guys. Form I-944, like I already said, is part of your adjustment of status application. It is to be submitted together with your Form I-864 as well, which is the affidavit of support. These two will go together with the adjustment of status application I-485. So there's no separate fee for Form I-944 because it goes together with the other two. Let's briefly talk about who is exempt from submitting Form I-944, meaning who does not have to submit it. In the instructions of the I-944, there's quite a few exemptions, and you can find those on pages 1 and 2 of the instructions for this form. But these exemptions are pretty similar to the exemptions for the I-864 form as well. And I also want to direct your guys' attention to the instructions of the Form I-485, where they do describe who has to submit either 864 and not I-944, or who has to submit neither, or who has to submit both. Most likely, if you're an immediate relative of a US citizen trying to immigrate, you will probably have to submit this form. And so for this form, just like for 864, I'm not going to go over every single question. We're going to focus on the most confusing parts of this form, starting with part 2 of this form. Part 1 primarily focuses on just personal information, your name, date of birth, etc. So that's easy. Part 2, however, is asking to provide information about the individuals in your household. When you are completing Form 864, because it is from the perspective of the petitioner, who is your sponsor, for example, then you, obviously, the petitioner will be talking about their household size and calculating their household size in that form. In this part, it is asking you to calculate your household size. Under number 1, you're obviously going to be putting in yourself, and then 1B, you will be putting in your petitioner spouse, right? After each household member that you're listing, there's 2 questions. First one, does this individual live with you? You will be answering yes or no. And then, is this individual filing an application for an immigration benefit with you, or has this individual already filed an application?
So in terms of yourself, you're obviously going to answer yes. Does this individual reside with you? Even though it doesn't really make sense, obviously you yourself are residing with you, you still want to answer yes. And then when it comes to, is this individual filing for the immigration benefit, you're going to say yes, because you are the intending immigrant and you are submitting this application.
So then 1B, when you're putting in your spouse, for example, or who is, say, your petitioner, then obviously you will be putting their information and saying, does this individual live with you? Yes. And then, is this individual filing an application, or has this individual filed an application? You're going to say no, because this individual is not applying for immigration, okay? They are a US citizen, for example, or a green card holder, whatever it is. They're not filing an application. You are filing an application for immigration benefits. So just keep that in mind. And obviously, if you have any children, again, you will be putting their information in here. I want to direct your guys' attention to the instructions of who is considered your household member, because this is extremely important. If you are 21 years or older, then the household members will include you, your spouse, if physically residing with you, your children under 21 unmarried physically residing with you, your children who may not be residing with you, for example, but for whom you provide at least 50% of financial support, say you have a 50-50 custody with somebody, then obviously you will be including those children too. Any other individuals to whom you provide, financial assistance or support. And then also anyone who's providing you financial support will also be included as part of your household size. If you are filling out this form from the perspective of an intending immigrant who is under 21 years old and unmarried, who is by USCIS definition considered a child, then you will be including yourself, meaning you are this prospective immigrant who's a child, your children if you have any other children that you are taking care of. You will also be including any parents or legal guardians who are providing you with financial assistance. You will be including your parents or legal guardians' other children who are physically residing with you, and your parents or legal guardians' other children not physically residing with you if they are taking care of them as well. And then also any other individual who your parents or legal guardians are providing financial support to as well.
So I wanted to quickly make a side note here, because this part of the application is one of the most confusing parts, because the requirements for counting household members in the I-944 are definitely different and less clear-cut than, for example, the requirements in the Affidavit of Support form I-864. A lot of people are wondering if you should be only including people who are residing with you in the same household. There was a discrepancy in some of the videos that I saw on YouTube. Some immigration attorneys only recommended including people listed on tax returns or who list you as a dependent on tax return. So I'm here to clear that up for you guys. On the USCIS website, in the policy manual for I-944, I will link that in the description box. You can go check out that policy manual to really see how USCIS will be evaluating your file based on all these different circumstances. But in short, a person who provides to the alien at least 50% of the alien's financial support may include another relative, such as a grandparent, parent, or sibling living with the alien, or someone not living with the alien who provides the alien with a monthly or yearly income, or supports the alien through payment of mortgage or rent, utility bills, grocery bills, or other needs. An alien must properly document and establish that such person is providing support for the alien for the person to be considered part of the household. So, in other words, you would want to list anyone who's providing you substantial financial support. For example, if you are living with your petitioner's mother and father, who are your mother and father-in-law, if they are paying for the mortgage on a house that you live in, you would want to show that. You would want to include that. You would want to also provide some kind of evidence showing that they have been paying for the mortgage. Maybe you want to provide the bills. Maybe they're paying for your guys' rent. Maybe they're paying at least 50% of your guys' rent. You want to include those as part of your household. You also want to include your sponsors, joint sponsors, petitioner's household members who are signing the I-864A contract, saying that they will also be financially contributing to your affidavit of support. In other words, you want to make sure that you are presenting to USCIS that you have support in this country, that you, for example, if you are not working or not able to work, you would want to list people who are able to financially help you. Say another example. If you have a parent who is living in another country, but they are sending you money every month that you are using to pay your rent, or maybe they are sending significant amounts of money to you in a lump sum, for example. Maybe once a year they send you a big lump sum of money that you use for rent and maybe even tuition. Again, you want to include those people as well. On the other hand, again, if you are supporting somebody else, for example, you are living in a house and you are supporting your niece or nephew, even though technically you may not have them listed on your tax returns, but maybe you pay for your niece's or nephew's clothing and food every month, and you're contributing to at least 50% of your niece's or nephew's existence. Basically, you want to include that as somebody you're taking care of you, so you would have to include those as part of your household. And the final note here is you would want to provide a proof of relationship to these people. You don't have to duplicate copies of documents proving relationship that you already have in the application. For example, if you have already included birth certificates for your children and marriage certificate for your spouse, then obviously don't duplicate it. However, for people who are not necessarily related to you, who are providing you support, you would want to provide proof of relationship. It can be an affidavit. An affidavit is a sworn statement. It is a letter that is notarized. So you can include an affidavit, for example. So I hope that cleared it up for you guys.
And then at the end, under E, you will be calculating the total number of household members. And again, if you run out of space, you can scroll all the way down to part 9, where they give you space for additional information. And that's where you can put in any other household members, anything else, okay? Moving on, part 3, you and your household members' assets, resources, and financial status. This can be extremely confusing, and I will explain why a little bit later. But anyway, so here under number 1, it will be asking you to include household members and their income. Start with yourself first, again, obviously, so you will be putting in yourself. Did you or your household members whose income is being included file a federal tax return? Obviously, you can say yes or no. Again, if you say no, for example, you didn't file a tax return, say you were a student in the United States and you were not required to file a tax return, then you will just click not required to file a tax return, and then in the explanation area down below, as you can see, you can say F1 student not required. Okay, for example. However, as you may know, F1 students are also allowed to work on campus in the United States. If you're an OPT student, paid CPT, whatever it is, you would have to have filed a federal tax return. So obviously you would click yes, and then you would provide the most recent tax year. Now, when it comes to providing most recent tax year, if you are submitting this application before April 15th, April 15th is the national tax filing date in the United States. Everyone would be submitting their taxes by April 15th. If you are applying for immigration prior to April 15th, say you're applying in March or January, then you will be submitting the tax returns, obviously, for the year that you have. However, if you are applying for immigration after April 15th, you should have already filed taxes for the year 2020. So at that point, you will be providing 2020 taxes.
So here I wanted to make a quick note and say that you cannot just provide irregular tax return copies. You would want to provide tax transcripts that are a little bit different than the copies of your returns. So in that case, you would go to the irs.gov website and request your transcripts online, for example. I will also put a link to that in the description of this video.
Again, next, moving on, a household member. This should be your petitioner. Obviously, if they're your primary sponsor, you will be putting in their information here as well. Did they file a tax return? Yes. and then you would just have to type in the tax year that they submitted it for and the wages that are listed on their W-2s, okay? Moving on, questions 2 and 3 are asking about if any of the income from you or your household members' tax returns come from illegal activity. I don't see who will answer yes to this question, but hopefully you answer no. And then not applicable to this one. And then let's see, question 4, does any of the income come from public benefits listed in the instructions? So if any of you or your household members has received any income from public benefits, then obviously you will have to be including that.
So in this next question, 6, it is asking about additional income. If you or your household members received additional income on a continuing weekly, monthly, or annual basis for the most recent tax year, and this income was not included in the tax return transcript. So this can be, for example, child support or unemployment benefits. Please do not include any public benefit income. So the public benefits we will talk about a little bit later in the video. So you would not be including any public benefit income. This part is only asking about additional income that is not listed on taxes, that is not public benefits.
Moving on, questions 7 and 8 are asking if there is any income that you have received from illegal activity. Obviously, again, you would say yes or no. Don't see how you would say yes, but whatever. And then let's see, moving on to part 3 now, when it comes to household members' assets, resources, financial status. So here, under number 9, you will be providing assets and resources that you and your household members have available. And again, when it comes to assets and stuff like that, USCIS will consider it if they see that you are potentially becoming a public charge risk. So if your household income, say your petitioners or you and your petitioner's household income based on the federal tax returns meets the 125% income requirement of the poverty guideline, then at that case you may provide your assets, but you don't necessarily have to, because again, income covers that. However, if you really want to, if you're feeling anxious about that, obviously you can include any other assets that you have, like checking and savings accounts that you have. You can also provide any real estate holdings, retirement, any bonds, stocks. Again, for each of these, you will obviously have to include the evidence. If you are providing it, then you will have to back it up with evidence. Okay, moving on to part 10, liabilities and debts. So this one is asking only for your liabilities and debts as the applicant, as the intending immigrant. This is not asking for liabilities and debts of your petitioner, just or the household. This is asking just for yours. So obviously this is where you will put it all in. If you have studied in the United States as a student, for example, then you probably will not have any education loans, because those are not really available for foreign students. But again, any kind of tax debts, credit card debts, mortgages, loans. Again, if you were previously here as a student, you probably will not have any of that. So again, if you do provide any of these, then you will have to obviously back it up with evidence. Again, this is just for you, not your petitioner, not any household members. Okay, next, part 11, which is asking for credit report and score. Obviously, again, if you don't have a credit card, if you never had a credit report, credit score, you don't have to provide it. But if you do, you can provide it. So if you do have a US credit report, select yes, and then you will have to provide evidence, meaning that you will have to go to specific websites to get this information. There's only 3 websites that are websites that can provide your entire credit report. They want to see your actual credit report. I'm not going to go into detail on the difference between the actual credit report, hard score, and your FICO soft score. So I can make a video explaining that later in the future. They're also listed in the instructions of this form. It is Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. These 3 websites are the ones that can provide you a complete credit report. Keep in mind that you can only pull one of these reports once a year without it significantly affecting your credit score. It will also be asking for your credit score, and your credit score will most likely be listed on the credit report as well. And then number 13 is asking if you have any negative credit history. Basically, the point of this, they just want to see that you are a responsible spender as well, and you're not going to be in financial debt, okay?
So what do you do if you do not have a social security number, you've never worked in the United States, you don't have a credit score, you don't have a credit report? So in this case, USCIS does ask that you provide documentation that says that you do not have a credit report or score with the credit bureau. So in that case, you would want to reach out to one of the agencies. I found online that Equifax can provide a letter stating that they could not access your credit report because you do not have a credit report with them, and you can use this letter as proof. Also, in the instructions for the I-944 form, it does say that you may provide evidence of continued payment of bills if there's no credit report or credit score. So you can provide a transcript from your landlord, for example, or maybe a transcript from National Grid or something like that, saying that you have been submitting payments for bills regularly without delays, and that can also help your case.
Okay, and moving on to the next part, question 15 is asking about health insurance, and it's asking if you currently have a health insurance. If you have answered yes, you will obviously have to provide evidence of the health insurance. So it can be either a letter from the health insurance agency stating that you are enrolled in this plan, and then I also took a photocopy of my health insurance card. I don't know if it made a difference at all, but I did it anyway. Again, if you answered yes, it will be asking you if you receive premium tax credit for Affordable Care Act health insurance type stuff, which means if you have received like Medicaid type health insurance, okay, then you will answer yes and stuff. But if your health insurance is not Medicaid or Medicare, which is also known as Obamacare, for example, then you would answer no. And then under B, you will have to provide your deductible or annual premium, which means the deductible really varies depending on what kind of health insurance you have. However, you can ask the person who has you on their health insurance, or you can ask your employer if you are on the health insurance. You can ask them like, okay, like what is my deductible? You can ask your HR, your employer. You can reach out to the health insurance agency, or if you look on your health insurance card, it will also tell you what the deductible is. So you'll put in that number in here, and in number C, you will be providing when your health insurance terminates and when you will have to renew it. Okay, and then if you have enrolled in a health insurance and your coverage hasn't started yet, or you actually are soon planning to enroll in health insurance, or you're not planning to enroll, then you will have to answer one of these. Again, if you are enrolled, obviously you will just have to provide like an evidence from insurance companies saying that you are enrolled but it hasn't started yet. The reason why that might be is, for example, you just got married to your US citizen spouse, they just put you on their insurance. However, for some people, some places of work, there's only specific enrollment periods where you can actually add your spouse to your health insurance. For some people, those enrollment periods can be each pay period. For some people, it can be only once a year. So you really have to check in with the person whose health insurance you're using, for example, right? So again, or if you have just started your job and you have enrolled in health insurance, but again, it has to be, it will start in like a few months time or a few weeks, then obviously you will have to provide this letter proving that it does indeed start soon. If you are not planning to enroll, if you answered no, then you will obviously have to provide information stating how you're planning to cover medical costs should they arise. Okay, so you will have to include that. Say, I mean, maybe you have a huge amount of savings that you have included in the assets part, and I don't know, maybe you have like 50 grand in your savings, or you can just freely use it on medical costs without needing health insurance, then by any means you can include that in the explanation. Moving on, Public benefits, again, so these are all the public benefits that are listed out. You will be again saying if you have ever received any of these public benefits, okay? And again, going back to the instructions of the form, as you can see on the I-944, SNAP, also known as food stamps, Section 8 housing, general Medicaid are included in this public benefit list. Again, if you have received them prior to October 15th, 2019, and not after, then you don't have to report them. Again, if you have received any of them after October 15th, 2019, obviously you will have to include them here. Again, if you have never received public benefits, say no. And this is asking about if you have ever received public benefits, okay? Not your household members. And then again, you will have to talk about specific public benefits, who gave them to you, blah, 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 in the areas below. If you have answered yes to any of the public benefits that you have received, then you will just have to select if any of the following apply to you. You will have to read those questions and respond. And if none of those statements apply to you, just say none of these statements apply to me. Don't skip these questions. Respond, none of these apply to me if they don't apply. And in number 20, it will be asking you if you have ever received Medicaid in connection to any kind of like medical emergency, school-based benefit services, blah, 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 Individuals with Disabilities Act, or while you were under 21. Again, obviously, you will be responding to it here. Again, in number 26, it's asking you if you have ever received any fee waivers from USCIS. A lot of the people who receive fee waivers, for example, you are a refugee, asylee, whatever it is, right? Then in that case, you wouldn't even have to submit any of these forms anyway. Okay, so moving on to part 4, education and skills. So in case that you, for example, run the risk of public charge, based on all of the previous financial information that you have included. Say, for example, they considered everything, your income, your assets, your household members' assets, and it still doesn't seem like enough. They would want to see if you have skills that will allow you to get a job in the United States and continue to financially support yourself or your family. Under number 1, if you have an I-140 approved as an alien worker, if you are applying as part of the petition for alien relative, then this won't apply to you. So you could just say no. And then in number 2, it's asking you if you have graduated high school. If you have a high school diploma, you'll answer yes or no. If you have any other educational history. So when it comes to educational history, I would say provide the most recent one first. So for example, if your highest level of education is PhD or a master's degree, I would definitely provide it first and foremost so that they can just look at it head on and say, oh wow, this person has a PhD. And then like master's, college, high school can go further down. And if, for example, this education comes from another country, say you have a college diploma from another country, or you have like a master's degree from your home country or whatever it is, right? Then you would have to include some kind of certification, some kind of letter explaining the equivalent of it to the US education, okay? So in order to see what it equates to, you will have to go to this website right here. It's also listed in the instructions for I-944. It's called National Association of Credential Evaluation Services, NACES.org. Next, under number 4, it is asking you if you have any occupational skills. Again, if you have any certifications, any specific skills, you will obviously include them here. So if I say, for example, completed a bachelor's degree in psychology, and I also after that received a certificate in behavioral management or behavioral assistance, then I will be putting it in here, for example. And also, again, don't forget to include the license number if available. Again, it's asking if any, who issued the certification, what it is, you know. And number 5, it is asking if you have English proficiency and any other language proficiency. Again, not everybody has an actual certificate or diploma stating that you have completed a certain language requirement, or if you're fluent in a certain language, okay? You don't have to go and get those, but it definitely helps. And when it comes to English certification, if you have received education in the United States, like a bachelor's degree, then obviously that is going to serve as your certification of English proficiency. And finally, I want to direct your guys' attention to part 8, which is called Signature at Interview. Please do not fill this out, do not touch this part, because this is something you will be signing at the green card interview. Don't forget to sign when you print it out. Don't forget to put not applicable to any areas that are left blank or that do not apply to you. Please make sure that you read all questions carefully. I hope you guys found this video useful. Please let me know if there's any other forms you want me to cover, and I will see you in my next videos. Bye.